I trusted my parents with my daughter. What they did next still doesn't make sense. Stay with me. You need to hear the rest. My name is Claire Hudson. I'm 37 years old. I've been a 911 dispatcher in Chicago for 12 years. I've heard people die over the phone. I've talked a teenager through giving birth alone. I've listened to a man apologize to his wife while his house burned down around him. Nothing ever prepared me for the call I got at 1:14 a.m. in a cheap hotel room 300 miles away from my daughter. 2 years ago, I made a mistake that I will carry to my grave. I trusted my parents, not with money, not with a secret, with my 9-year-old daughter, Emma. My husband, David, had been dead for 3 years. Heart attack. 41 years old. 1 minute he was mowing the lawn, the next minute he was gone. Emma found him. I was at work. She ran outside because she heard the lawn mower stop and then start making this terrible grinding noise. She was 6 years old. She shook his shoulder for 20 minutes before calling me. I will never forgive myself for that day, but I will also never forgive myself for what came later. Emma changed after David died. She stopped being the bubbly little girl who sang loudly in grocery stores. She became quiet, careful. She apologized for everything. If the wind blew too hard, she said sorry. If someone stepped on her foot, she said sorry. If she needed a glass of water at night, she would whisper sorry before even asking. She was trying to take up as little space as possible. And my family, my parents, and my younger sister's daughter, Sophie, they hated her for it. Sophie was 11 months younger than Emma. Loud, bossy, the kind of child who threw tantrums in restaurants and my parents called spirited. The kind of child who grabbed toys out of other kids' hands and my parents called confident. Emma was weird. Emma was too sensitive. Emma was hard to love. I heard those words for years and did nothing. Until the training came up. 3 weeks. Emergency communications certification. Out of state. I had no one else. My mother called me and said, "Claire, stop being dramatic. Emma will be fine. Sophie misses her. Let her stay with us." I hesitated. For 3 days I hesitated. Then my mother sent me a photo of Emma and Sophie on a swing set, both smiling. Emma looked happy. I convinced myself I was imagining the bad things. I packed Emma's purple backpack. Her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Whiskers, her asthma inhaler. I drove her to my parents' house in the suburbs. Emma looked back at me once as she walked up the driveway. Just once. I should have turned the car around. That was the last normal moment I had for a very long time. The first 4 days, Emma called me every night. She sounded tired but okay. Then something shifted. Her answers got shorter. Her voice got flatter. On day 6, I asked her if she was having fun. There was a long pause, then my mother's voice in the background. "Emma, stop bothering your mother. Give me the phone." Emma said, "I love you," so fast it sounded like one word. Then the line went dead. I told myself I was being paranoid. I was wrong about that too. On day 8, Emma missed our call completely. I waited by my phone from 7:00 p.m. to 9:00 p.m. Nothing. I called my mother's house 3 times. No answer. I called my father's cell phone. Straight to voicemail. Finally, at 9:47 p.m., my mother texted me. She fell asleep early. Stop checking in so much. You're smothering her. Emma had never fallen asleep before 10:00 p.m. in her entire life. She fought sleep like it was a personal enemy. David used to joke that she got it from me. I texted back, "Let me talk to her in the morning." My mother replied with a thumbs up emoji. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my hotel bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation I'd ever had with my parents about Emma. The Christmas when Emma was 7. Sophie got a tablet. Emma got a coloring book. Sophie opened 14 presents. Emma opened 4. My mother said, "Well, Sophie's easier to buy for." The birthday party when Emma turned 8. My parents showed up an hour late, stayed for 20 minutes, and left without singing happy birthday. My mother said, "You know we love her. We just had plans." The time Emma got stung by a bee at their house and my mother told her to stop crying because she was embarrassing everyone. I saw all of it. I did nothing. I told myself they were from a different generation. I told myself they showed love differently. I told myself that family was family. But at 2:00 a.m. in that hotel room, I finally admitted the truth I had been running from for years. My parents did not love my daughter. They tolerated her at best, and I had handed her over to them like a package to be delivered. The next morning, I called at 7:00 a.m. sharp. Emma answered on the first ring. Her face appeared on my screen and I felt my stomach drop through the floor. Her eyes were swollen, not just tired, swollen. Red, the kind of swollen that comes from crying for hours. There was a mark on her cheek, a faint purple bruise hidden under what looked like old makeup. My mother had put makeup on a 9-year-old to cover a bruise. "Mom," Emma whispered, "when are you coming home?" Her voice was smaller than I had ever heard it, smaller than after David died, smaller than when she was sick with the flu. This was a different kind of small. This was a child who had been made to feel like nothing. "Soon, baby." 6 more days. What happened to your face? Emma touched her cheek and flinched. I fell. Fell where? Off the swing. But she wasn't looking at me. She was looking over her shoulder. Someone was in the room with her, watching her, listening. "Emma, look at me." She looked. Her eyes were begging me to understand something she couldn't say out loud. Before I could ask another question, I heard my mother's voice, not loud, controlled, dangerous. "Emma, breakfast. Now." Emma jumped like she had been shocked. "I have to go." "Emma, wait." The call ended. I called back 5 times. Each time it went straight to voicemail. Then my mother texted me, "She's fine. Focus on your training." "You're being dramatic." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I started packing my bags. I didn't care about the training. I didn't care about my certification. I cared about one thing: getting my daughter back. I called the training coordinator at 8:00 a.m. I told her there was a family emergency. She told me I would have to retake the entire course next year and pay the fee again. I told her I didn't care. She said, "Claire, are you sure?" I hung up. I threw my clothes into my suitcase. I didn't fold anything. I didn't check for anything I might have left behind. I just grabbed and shoved and ran. The drive from the training facility back to Chicago was 6 hours. I planned to drive straight through. No stops, no breaks. I was on the road by 9:15 a.m. I should have been home by 3:30 p.m. But at 1:14 a.m., not p.m., a.m., the middle of the night, my phone rang. I had been driving for 16 hours. I had stopped for gas once and coffee twice. I was exhausted. I was running on adrenaline and fear. My phone showed an unknown number with an area code from my parents' town. I almost didn't answer. I thought it was a spam call. I thought it was a wrong number. I was so tired I could barely see straight. But something made me swipe answer. Something saved my daughter's life. "Is this Claire Hudson?" an older man's voice asked. His voice was low, gravelly, the voice of someone who had smoked for 40 years and quit too late. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Walter. I live across the street from your parents. The blue house with the American flag on the porch." My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "What's wrong? Is Emma okay?" There was a pause, a long, terrible pause. When Walter spoke again, his voice cracked. "Your daughter is at my house right now. She showed up about 40 minutes ago. She was outside in the storm." I looked out my windshield. The rain had started around midnight. It wasn't just rain, it was a thunderstorm. Lightning cracked across the sky every few seconds. The wind was so strong I could feel my car shaking. "What do you mean she was outside?" "She was sitting on my porch, ma'am, on my welcome mat. No shoes, no jacket, soaking wet. She was crying so hard she couldn't tell me her name at first. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't see, the road in front of me blurred. Is she okay? Is she hurt?" "She's cold. She's scared, but she's safe now. My wife passed away 2 years ago, but I still keep her quilts. I wrapped Emma in one. She's on my couch drinking hot chocolate." Walter paused again. "Ma'am, she told me something I think you need to hear." "Tell me." "She said your parents locked her out around 10:00 p.m. She said your mother told her she could come back in the morning if she learned how to behave. Emma knocked. She rang the doorbell. She said she could see them inside watching TV. They didn't let her back in." I felt something break inside me, not break, shatter. A mother's rage is different from any other rage. It is cold. It is focused. It is absolute. "I'm on my way," I said. "Don't let anyone take her. Don't open the door for my parents. Do you understand?" "I understand, ma'am. Drive safe." I hung up and pressed the gas pedal to the floor. I kept Walter on the phone for the next 2 hours. Not the whole time. He had to check on Emma, get her more blankets, make sure she wasn't going into shock. But every time he came back to the phone, he told me more. And every detail was a knife in my chest. Emma had been at my parents' house for 12 days. 12 days. In that time, according to what she told Walter, my parents had completely taken over her life. They took her phone away after the first week. She was only allowed to call me when my mother was in the room, and my mother listened to everything she said. "Don't tell your mother about this," my mother would say. "You'll just worry her, she has enough problems." So Emma didn't tell me. She wanted to. Every night she wanted to scream into the phone, "Come get me, please come get me." But she was 9. She was scared. And she had been taught her whole life that her feelings didn't matter. Sophie, my sister's daughter, had been there the whole time. Sophie was 10. She was bigger than Emma, louder than Emma. And she had figured out very quickly that she could do anything she wanted to Emma without consequences. Sophie hid Emma's asthma inhaler twice. The first time, Emma couldn't find it for 2 hours. She had a mild attack. My mother told her she was being dramatic. The second time, Sophie threw it into the pool. Emma had to jump in fully clothed to get it. My mother punished Emma for getting her clothes wet. Sophie laughed. But the worst part, the part that made me grip the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, was the basement. My parents had a finished basement. Couch, old TV, boxes of Christmas decorations. They started sending Emma down there during the day. For quiet time, my mother said, but quiet time lasted 4 hours, 6 hours. Once, Emma said she was down there for 8 hours. No bathroom, no water, no phone. Just the dark and the cold and the sound of footsteps above her. She said your father would sometimes lock the basement door, Walter told me. She said she could hear the lock click. And then she would sit on the couch and cry until someone came to get her. I asked Walter if Emma said why she ran away that night. She said it was because your mother yelled at her for something Sophie did. Sophie broke a vase. Your mother blamed Emma. Emma said she tried to explain what happened and your mother slapped her across the face. The bruise, the makeup. Then your father came home, Walter continued. He told Emma to go sit on the porch until she was ready to apologize. She apologized right away. She always apologizes. But your father said she didn't mean it, and he locked the door. I was crying now. Tears running down my face so fast I could barely see. Thank you, Walter. Thank you for taking care of my baby. I lost my own daughter to cancer 15 years ago, he said quietly. I would have done anything to have one more night with her. You drive safe, Claire. Your daughter is waiting for you. I made it to my parents' town at 3:47 a.m. The storm had finally started to let up, but the roads were still slick. I passed 3 cars in ditches. I passed a tree that had fallen across someone's front yard. I didn't slow down. Walter's house was easy to find. The blue one with the porch swing. Every light on the first floor was burning. I parked in his driveway, nearly hitting his mailbox, and ran to the front door. I didn't knock. I pounded. Walter opened the door before my fist could hit it a second time. He was older than I expected, maybe early 70s, gray beard, kind eyes that looked like they had seen too much sadness. Behind him, on the couch, wrapped in a quilt that had been hand-stitched with yellow flowers, was Emma. She was awake. She was sitting up. Her hair was still damp. Her feet were wrapped in bandages. And the second she saw me, her face crumpled. "Mommy!" She didn't run to me. She couldn't. She tried to stand up and winced. Her feet, the broken pavement. Walter said, "She's got some cuts, nothing deep." I cleaned them up and put antibiotic ointment on them, but she might need a doctor. I didn't care about doctors. I crossed the room in 3 steps and dropped to my knees in front of the couch. I pulled Emma into my arms and held her. She buried her face in my neck and sobbed. Not quiet tears, not polite tears, the kind of tears that come from the deepest part of a person. The part that doesn't know how to ask for help anymore because asking has only ever made things worse. "I'm sorry," she kept saying. "I'm sorry, Mommy, I'm sorry." "You have nothing to be sorry for," I told her. "Nothing." "Do you understand me?" She nodded against my shoulder. But I knew she didn't believe me. Not yet. That would take years. I looked up at Walter. "Thank you. I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," he said. "You came." I stayed on Walter's couch with Emma in my arms until the sun came up. She fell asleep around 5:00 a.m., her fingers still clutching my shirt. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her on that porch, barefoot, crying. Watching her grandparents watch TV through the window. When the sky started to turn gray, I made a decision. I wasn't just taking Emma home. I was going back to my parents' house first. I was going to get her things. And I was going to tell them exactly what I thought of them. Walter offered to come with me. I said no, this was mine. I left Emma sleeping on Walter's couch with strict instructions not to open the door for anyone but me. Then I walked across the street. The sun was just starting to rise. The rain had stopped. The neighborhood was quiet. Birds were singing. It was the kind of peaceful morning that made you think nothing bad could ever happen in the world. I knew better. My parents' house looked the same as it always had. White shutters. A wreath on the door that my mother changed with the seasons. The porch where my daughter had been locked out in a thunderstorm. I didn't knock. I opened the front door and walked in. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee. My father was reading the newspaper in his recliner. Sophie was nowhere to be seen, probably still upstairs in Emma's bed. My mother looked up at me and didn't even have the decency to look surprised. "Claire, you're here early. Where are Emma's things?" My father lowered his newspaper. "Good morning to you too. Where are Emma's things?" My mother set down her coffee cup very carefully. "You're upset, I understand, but you're not seeing the whole picture." "The whole picture?" My voice was shaking, not with fear, with rage. "The whole picture is that you locked my 9-year-old daughter outside in a thunderstorm, barefoot, for hours. It was 20 minutes, my mother said. She's exaggerating. She always does. Walter saw her, Walter across the street. He called me at 1:00 a.m. He said she was on his porch, soaking wet, crying so hard she couldn't talk. My mother's face flickered for just a second. Then she smoothed it back into that calm, condescending mask she had worn my entire life. Walter is an old man who doesn't know what he's talking about. Emma ran away. We were about to call the police. You were watching TV. We were worried sick. You were watching TV, I repeated. Emma could see you through the window. My father stood up. He was a tall man. He had used his height to intimidate me since I was a little girl. Claire, you need to calm down. You're making a scene. I haven't even started making a scene. I walked past them and down the stairs to the basement. The door at the top of the basement stairs had a lock on the outside, a hook-and-eye lock, installed recently. The wood around the screws was still light-colored, not yet yellowed with age. They had put that lock there for Emma. I went down the stairs. Emma's purple backpack was thrown in a corner next to an old water heater. Her clothes were scattered everywhere. Her asthma inhaler was on the floor under a pile of dust. Mr. Whiskers, her stuffed rabbit, was face down in a puddle of something I didn't want to identify. I picked everything up. I put it all in the backpack. I walked back upstairs. My mother was waiting at the kitchen counter. You know, she said, if you can't handle her, we could keep her. Permanently. I stopped walking. What did you just say? We could file for custody. You're a widow. You work long hours. A judge might agree that we could provide a more stable home. She said it like she was offering to take out the trash, like Emma was a burden she was willing to carry. You will never see my daughter again, I said. You will never speak to her again. If you come near us, I will call the police. I will call a lawyer. I will tell everyone what you did. My mother smiled, actually smiled. You won't do that. We're family. I walked out the door and didn't look back. I took Emma home. The drive was quiet. She slept most of the way, her head against the window, Mr. Whiskers tucked under her arm. I kept looking at her in the rearview mirror, at the bruise on her cheek, at the bandages on her feet, at the way her hands kept twitching even in her sleep, like she was still trying to defend herself from something. We got home at 9:00 a.m. I carried her inside and put her in my bed. Then I called the police, not the emergency line. The non-emergency line. I asked to speak to someone about child endangerment. They sent an officer to my house within 2 hours. His name was Officer Martinez. He was young, late 20s. He had kind eyes and a notebook, and he listened without interrupting while I told him everything. Then he asked to speak to Emma. I woke her up gently. I told her a police officer was here to help. I asked if she wanted to talk to him. She looked at me for a long time, then she nodded. Officer Martinez talked to Emma for 45 minutes. I wasn't in the room. I don't know exactly what she said. But when he came out, his face was pale. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm going to file a report. I'm going to recommend charges. What your parents did, that's not discipline. That's imprisonment. He used that word, imprisonment, for a 9-year-old girl in her grandparents' basement. I filed a restraining order the next day. My parents were served with papers within a week. My mother called me screaming, "How dare you? After everything we did for you, after we raised you, you're destroying this family." My father left a voicemail. His voice was cold. "You've made an enemy, Claire. I hope you're happy." I didn't respond to either of them. I blocked their numbers. I blocked my sister's number. I blocked Sophie's number even though Sophie was 10 and shouldn't have had a phone anyway. I cut them all out. The rest of the family took sides. Most of them took my parents. I got emails from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. How could you do this to your own mother? Family forgives. You're going to regret this when they're gone. I deleted every single one. The case went to court 4 months later. My parents pleaded no contest. They said they didn't want to put Emma through a trial. That was a lie. They pleaded no contest because their lawyer told them they would lose. The judge sentenced them to 2 years of probation and mandatory parenting classes. Parenting classes for grandparents in their 60s, and the judge granted a 5-year no-contact order. For 5 years, my parents were not allowed to call, text, email, or come near Emma. After 5 years, they could petition for supervised visitation. They never did. They told everyone I had kidnapped their granddaughter. They told everyone I was mentally unstable. They told everyone Emma was lying. Some people believed them. Those people are not in my life anymore. The first 6 months after we got home were the hardest thing I have ever done. Emma didn't talk about what happened. Not to me, not to her therapist, not to anyone. She just went quiet. The kind of quiet that fills up a whole house. She stopped eating dinner with me. She started eating in her room with the door closed. She stopped laughing. She stopped crying. She just existed. I thought I had lost her. I thought the damage was permanent. Dr. Patel, her therapist, told me to be patient. "She's processing," Dr. Patel said. "She's not ready to share yet, but she's still in there." I didn't believe her. Until one night, about 7 months after we got home. I heard crying from Emma's room. I went in. She was sitting up in bed, Mr. Whiskers in her lap, tears streaming down her face. "Mommy," she said, "why did Grandma love me?" I sat down on her bed and held her. And for the first time, I told her the truth, not the softened version, not the "they love you in their own way" version I had told myself for years, the real truth. "Because something is broken inside her," I said. "Not inside you, inside her. She doesn't know how to love anyone who isn't exactly like her. And that is not your fault. That has never been your fault." Emma cried for a long time. So did I, but after that night, something shifted. Emma started talking. Not about the basement or the storm. Not yet. But about small things, about school, about a girl in her class who was mean to her, about a dream she had where David was still alive. She started eating dinner with me again. She started leaving her door open. It took a full year before Emma told me the whole story. Everything my parents did, everything Sophie did, everything she had been too scared to say on the phone, I listened without interrupting. Without crying. I wanted to cry, I wanted to scream, but she needed me to be strong, so I was. 2 years later, Emma is 11, she's in 5th grade, she has friends, she laughs, real laughs, not the quiet ones she used to hide behind her hand. She still has nightmares sometimes. She still checks the locks on the doors before she goes to bed. She still asks me, "You wouldn't lock me out, would you?" And every time I hold her face in my hands and I look her right in the eyes. "Never," I say. "Never in a million years. You are my daughter. This is your home. No one will ever take that away from you again." People ask me if I regret cutting off my parents. They ask me if I miss them. They ask me if I will ever forgive them. The answer to all 3 questions is no. I don't regret it. I regret not doing it sooner. I regret every Christmas I forced Emma to sit at their table while Sophie opened 14 presents and she opened 4. I regret every birthday party they showed up late to or left early from. I regret every time I told Emma they mean well when we both knew they didn't. I don't miss them. I miss the idea of them. I miss the parents I wished I had. The ones who would have loved Emma the way she deserved to be loved. The ones who would have seen her quiet sensitivity as a gift instead of a flaw. Those parents never existed. They were a fantasy I built in my head to protect myself from the truth, and I don't forgive them. Forgiveness is for people who apologize, who change, who look at what they did and feel genuine remorse. My parents have never apologized. They have never admitted they did anything wrong. They still tell anyone who will listen that Emma is a liar and I am a kidnapper. You cannot forgive people who are still hurting you. You can only walk away, so I walked away. And my life got better. Emma's life got better. We are not perfect. We are not healed, but we are safe. And safety is something I will never take for granted again. I think about Walter sometimes, the stranger who took in my daughter in the middle of a storm. The man who had no obligation to help but did anyway. He taught me something important. Family is not about blood. Family is about who shows up. My parents had my blood. Walter had nothing but a porch and a quilt and a heart that still remembered what it was like to lose a child. Walter is Emma's grandfather now. We visit him twice a year. He sends her birthday cards with $20 bills inside. He calls her every month just to ask how school is going. He never locked her outside. He never will. That is what family looks like. Not the people who share your DNA, the people who keep you safe. If you are listening to this story and you have a child, a daughter, a son, a niece, a nephew, a neighbor's kid who trusts you, please hear what I am about to say. Trust is not automatic. Family is not an excuse. Just because someone raised you does not mean they are safe to raise your children. I ignored the red flags for years, the favoritism, the coldness. The way my parents looked at Emma like she was a problem to be solved rather than a person to be loved. I told myself they meant well. I told myself I was being too sensitive. I told myself that family was family. I was wrong. The night Walter found my daughter on his porch in the rain, she had been crying so hard she couldn't breathe. Her feet were cut from running across broken pavement that had been torn up by construction crews 2 houses down. Her hands were blue from the cold. Her lips were purple. She had been outside for over 2 hours in a thunderstorm with lightning striking so close she could feel the thunder in her chest. And my parents were inside watching television. A crime show. My mother later told the police she didn't remember what episode. That is not discipline. That is not tough love. That is abuse. Plain and simple. And I almost let it happen because I was too afraid to trust my own instincts. So here is what I did. I cut them off completely. No second chances. No, but they're your parents. No holidays, no birthdays, no funerals. When my father had a heart scare last year, my sister called me to say I should come say goodbye. I said no. When my mother was diagnosed with high blood pressure, my aunt called me to say I would regret not reaching out. I said I would take that risk. They made their choice the moment they locked that door. And I made mine when I drove 6 hours through a thunderstorm to get my daughter back. Emma is doing well now. She is in 5th grade. She has a best friend named Maya who comes over every Friday for pizza and board games. She laughs, real laughs, not the quiet ones she used to hide behind her hand. She sings in the shower again. She leaves her toys on the living room floor even though I tell her to pick them up. She is becoming a child again. But some scars don't go away. She still checks the locks on the doors before she goes to bed, every single night, even in the summer when the windows are open. She still asks me, sometimes out of nowhere, "You wouldn't lock me out, would you?" And every single time I stop whatever I am doing. I put down my phone. I turn off the stove. I get on her level. I hold her face in my hands. I look her right in the eyes, and I say, never, not in a million years, not for 1 second. You are my daughter. This is your home. And no one, not grandma, not grandpa, not anyone will ever take that away from you again. And then she smiles. A small smile, but it is real, and that is enough for me. That is everything. If you are listening to this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you are making excuses for someone who hurts your child, please stop. Please drive through the storm. Please knock on a stranger's door. Please get your baby and don't look back. You are not being dramatic. You are not being sensitive. You are being a mother. And that is the only thing that matters.